Your life would be in serious danger if you found yourself in prehistoric times, from giant crocodiles, snakes, and 20-foot sloths to the largest predatory dinosaurs and huge sea creatures. The vastness of our planet was a real nightmare. During the course of the video, we're gonna tell you not only about the 9 most dangerous creatures of those times, but also about what time each of them lived, what their real size was, what real danger they posed to other inhabitants of that era. But finally, after watching this video until the end, you'll find out who was the main predator of all times on Earth. A deadly descendant of the dinosaurs, one of the most fearsome inhabitants of South America during the Paleocene, a bird of prey from which no one could escape. And once it reached its target, with its massive beak, it could massacre anyone, and the name of this bird was Forest Racco's. It reached a height of 8 feet and weighed about from 300 to 600 pounds. As for the wings, it couldn't fly with their help, but this is not what made it a dangerous predator, but its strong legs, thanks to which it developed a speed of 30 miles per hour, as well as a huge beak and a powerful neck. These were used to hunt this bird. Forest Racco's could quickly ambush its prey, retreat and attack again. Once the prey was slaughtered, the curved beak and powerful neck were used to tear the prey apart. The large claws on their feet aided in this by grabbing tired or dead prey. But wait, if these birds were so dangerous and deadly, why did the Forest Racco's eventually become extinct? The convergence of the 2 continents contributed to it. The Isthmus of Panama literally opened Pandora's box, as not only Forest Racco's made their way to the neighboring mainland, but also previously unknown species from the north swooped in for a visit. In general, species migrating from South America did not survive long in the north, but the migration of animals from the north was more successful. About half of the modern species of South America originated from the inhabitants of North America. Add climate change to all this, and the Forest Racco's had no chance to survive. But who had the strength to not only overpower, but essentially exterminate an entire population of these birds? It was the result of an ancient feline species with previously unseen 12-inch long fangs that you've probably heard of. Saber-toothed tigers, or smilodons. These are the ones that played a crucial role in the life of the Forest Racco's. Now we're gonna tell you not only about how exactly they lived, hunted, what tactics of killing other animals used, but also what was the main weakness of saber-toothed tigers, which could easily lead to their death. Despite the fact that even a single smilodon posed a serious threat to other inhabitants of the fauna at that time, yeah, most of the life of saber-toothed tigers was spent in packs, which made them much more dangerous. Being in a pack, it was possible to use tactics. When some individuals hold the prey, others calmly cut into the stomach with their teeth or sink their fangs to gnaw arteries. All evidence suggests that Smilodon was in the super predator category. The combination of a skull that was adapted to the stresses of a strong vertical impact, powerful neck muscles, and 2 front teeth created an almost perfectly honed predator's hunting method. Why almost? The problem lies in the fangs. They were very fragile. That was why, before sinking them into the prey, it was necessary to roll it on the ground, fix the body, and only then try to bite it, so as not to damage the teeth. And if it so happened that a Smilodon broke and lost his fangs, it was more likely doomed to starvation. And though they were super predators with high hunting skills, the flip side of their nature is a complete loss of evolutionary flexibility, which naturally ends in extinction when environmental conditions change. And that's exactly what happened. In the period of climate change, when savannas were replaced by steppes, many herbivorous inhabitants of those places simply began to die out, and the Smilodons faced serious problems. It's worth noting that even in times of favorable climate, saber-tooths had problems not only with other predators, but also with the sloth. Yeah, you heard it right, it was with him, but not with that lazy and cute version of it, which lives at present, but with its far ancestor, Megatherium. What so frightened saber-toothed tigers, and what this huge sloth could oppose to the predators? The first thing that served as defense was a size. They were simply gigantic. 20 feet in height and a weight of 4 tons. But not only did the giant sloth scared off predators, the second defense was its long claws and huge paws, the force of the blow of which was just huge. Add to this the skin, which in its structure was similar to a ring armor, and you get a tank capable to kill the enemy in one movement at the slightest threat. That's how the Megatherians dealt with the Smilodons too. But if you met this giant sloth, there was no need to be afraid, as they were herbivorous and they were only dangerous if their own life was threatened. This beast preferred soft food, like young leaves and fruits, and to get to them, it approached the tree and climbed up on its hind legs, in turn supported by a massive tail. With his front paws with huge crooked claws, Megatherium took and pulled the twigs to his mouth, and with his long lips grasped them like a trunk. Unfortunately, despite this defense and the danger they could pose, they were not safe from the climate and people. The Paleo-Indians who arrived in South America already knew how to use throwing weapons and easily exterminated the Megatherians. This eventually led to their extinction. And now we're moving on to really ancient times, 100 million years ago, at the height of the Cretaceous period, and meet perhaps one of the most terrifying crocodiles of all time, Sarcosuchus. If the modern crocodile hunts mainly on antelopes or zebras, this beast hunted for bigger prey, not only on herbivorous dinosaurs that came to the reservoir, but also on the most dangerous reptiles of that time. But more on that later. The 40-feet Sarcosuchus lived primarily in what is now Brazil, but also in North Africa. At the time of the huge crocodile's existence, the Sahara looked differently. It was a tropical plain with a rich diversity of fauna, such as a large number of freshwater lakes and small rivers. The ancient crocodile spent a significant part of its life in the water, where it obtained its food, occasionally climbing out to warm itself on the shore. The huge size of the amphibian predator, as well as the strength of the bite, exceeding the strength of the modern crocodile in 13 times, allowed it to hunt almost any prey. Imperial Sarcosuchus couldn't cope only with the largest herbivorous dinosaurs, and the main opponent of the historical crocodile, think about it, was Spinosaurus. Although researchers believe that Sarcosuchus without a strong knee didn't attack Spinosaurus, in hungry years, he was also in the Spinosaurus menu. Superiority in size, powerful armor, and complete dominance in the water allowed the crocodile to overpower his formidable opponent. And this is how the hunt of the imperial crocodile itself looked like. Lurking in the murky river water, this monster waited for its prey, and then in a lightning rush dragged the land dinosaur into its element. In this case, to escape from its steel jaws was impossible. And to find out what other giant and predatory dinosaur Sarcosuchus could compete with, watch the video until the end. Gradually moving from land predators to marine predators, we dive into the depths of the Jurassic Ocean. During that time, the waters were filled with a variety of fauna, from small fish, plankton, and turtles to marine crocodiles, sharks, and ichthyosaurs. And among this multitude of marine life, Liopleurodon, the dominant predator of the late Jurassic seas and oceans, was particularly notable. That's a good title, isn't it? And why exactly he was honored with it, we're gonna try to figure out. The diet of Liopleurodon was extensive. They could feed as well as large fish with ammonites, and were not afraid to attack other predatory marine reptiles. This was helped by their anatomy. Huge size, the length of an adult was about 16-20 feet, as well as 4 huge flippers, reaching up to 10 feet in length. They allowed for better maneuverability as well as greater speed. The main tool for hunting were teeth, which were huge, up to 12 inches long. Thanks to them, Liopleurodon bite off the prey of huge pieces of meat and could bite 7-10 feet victim in half. In search of food, these marine reptiles could dive deep, staying at depth for long periods of time, looking for the next victim. At this point, a passing fish or other creature had little chance, because the Liopleurodon not only had massive size, speed, and huge teeth, but also sensitive nostrils on its head, thus picking up the odors of any sea creatures. Moving on. What thoughts come to your mind at the mention of a white shark? The movie Jaws? The most dangerous shark of our time? Mistress of the world's oceans? And you may be right, but if you go back 15 million years, the ocean is ruled by a completely different shark, Megalodon. Its size of 60 feet exceeds the size of a white shark by a factor of 4. For comparison, it's the height of a 6-story building. With a mass of 40 tons and teeth 8 inches long, it was the king of the seas. But not everything is as good as it may seem. Such sizes appeared for a reason. The Megalodon had serious competitors, exceeding it both in length, speed, and weight. And before we tell about them, we'll delve into the anatomy of Megalodon and what underwater creatures it fed on in the Miocene epoch. Young megalodons hunted literally everything that moves. As for adults, them becoming larger, they moved to marine mammals. Mainly their prey were whales, large fish, and sea turtles. Starting the hunt, Megalodon went to the depth for ambush. This contributed to an extremely slow metabolism. Then, as its target approached the desired distance, the giant shark would ram and bite from below, often biting off the fins and eventually eating the victim. As for natural enemies, the megalodon's competition was giant hammerhead sharks as well as whales, but not those that feed on plankton, but predatory leviathans, whose size far exceeded that of the megalodon. But it wasn't sea enemies that brought the shark to its doom, it was climate. Warm oceans provided an abundance of food when it was emerging as a top predator, but what led to megalodon's success was also its demise. 2.6 million years ago, at a time when the planet's climate was beginning to change dramatically, the oceans began to actively cool, causing large fauna to die out, and the giant predator simply had nothing left to eat. But with some species going extinct, the number of creepy creatures on our planet is not diminishing at all. Before that historic asteroid impact 65 million years ago, dinosaurs dominated the Earth for hundreds of millions of years. But after their extinction, a new reptile appeared in short order, just as large in size, much more inconspicuous, and extremely deadly to other inhabitants of the time. In the swamps and rivers of what is now Colombia, 62 million years ago lived the largest snake that ever existed on Earth, Titanoboa. Just picture that, it was 40 feet long, one-on-one identical to Tyrannosaurus rex, and all thanks to the higher temperatures of that era. The comfortable climate allowed the reptiles to not only digest food effectively, promoting rapid growth, but also a much longer lifespan. All this gradually led to the fact that Titanoboa was a giant not only in length, but also in weight class. But unlike the cobra or rattlesnake, it did not rely on its venomous teeth. Instead, the giant snake rather favored the tactics of the modern python. Due to its immense strength, Titanoboa was capable of literally squeezing its victims to death, which included giant tortoises and crocodiles. Even though it was born well after the extinction of the dinosaurs, would you have wanted to see Titanoboa fight some sort of predator or at least Cretaceous herbivore? Unfortunately or fortunately, in such a case, a successful outcome for the snake would have been unlikely because Titanoboa was an ambush predator that relied on stealth and muscle power in aquatic environments. It wasn't built for chasing or fighting massive creatures that had sharp teeth, horns, and claws. Throughout this video, we've mentioned dinosaurs many times, but do you know who was the largest of them all? Of the herbivores, it was Argentinosaurus, 115 feet tall and with an insane 100 tons of weight. And who was the largest terrestrial predatory dinosaur? And no, it wasn't Tyrannosaurus, but its big brother who lived 20 million years before T-Rex, Gigantosaurus. And in just a couple of minutes, you'll find out not only how it hunted, what was its habitat, but most importantly, could this giant reptile defeat Tyrannosaurus in a single fight? Gigantosaurus lived at the height of the Cretaceous about 100 to 97 million years ago. Its habitat covered the present-day territory of Argentina and Brazil. As now, however, this area was dominated by a warm and humid climate with an abundance of tropical forests and coasts favorable for the development of the dominant predator. Interesting fact, at that time South America was a part of the giant continent of Gondwana, which also included Africa, Australia, India, and Antarctica. However, during this time period of the Cretaceous, there were also natural rival enemies of Gigantosaurus, such as large herbivorous dinosaurs like Brachiosaurus and Diplodocus. Although Gigantosaurus was strong enough to attack these dinosaurs, they in turn could have posed a serious threat by gathering to attack the giant predator in a group. Other predators should also not be forgotten. Abylosaurus, along with Carnotaurus, were able to compete with Gigantosaurus for food and territory. Another opponent of the predatory reptile was the very powerful and huge Sarcosuchus, which we talked about earlier. The southern giant had its own disadvantages. It was not a good runner for sure. This is evidenced by the structure of its legs. The tibia is the same length as the femur, but Gigantosaurus didn't need to run fast because it hunted mainly sauropods, the largest land animals in the territory of the planet. Now let's move on to imaginary confrontation between T-Rex and Gigantosaurus. Who would win? There are two options. Gigantosaurus comes not alone but with his relatives who lived and hunted with him in the same pack. In this case, it's safe to say that a group of several individuals would have easily defeated Tyrannosaurus, but there's another option, one-on-one. Then all possible factors indicate that the probability of victory of Gigantosaurus against T-Rex will be extremely low. It's no coincidence that we noted that Gigantosaurus was the largest predator exactly in the terrestrial plane, because if we consider also semi-aquatic way of life, then everything changes at once. In this case, the largest predator is Spinosaurus, famous for its amazing sail and some resemblance to crocodiles. And you've probably heard about it, and you probably have a question, why did it need a dorsal crest? Now we'll try to understand not only this, but also with what predators it competed for prey, and what its real size were. There are three variants of the functionality of this crest. The first variant is to help regulate the body temperature of the reptile. The second variant is to help it move through the water, and the third option is an elaborate demonstration of readiness for mating. As for the structure, the basis of the sail on the back was the long, thin, bony outgrowths on the vertebra, some of which reached a length of almost 6 feet. Now, as we said earlier, Spinosaurus is the absolute record holder for the largest of all carnivorous dinosaurs. Adults were heavier than Tyrannosaurus by about 1 ton and Gigantosaurus by half a ton. In length and height, they were also the largest, 26 feet tall and 55 feet long respectively. But these giant creatures were not destined to meet because they lived in completely different habitats. But here with whom Spinosaurus could compete, it was again with 10-ton Sarcosuchus, with which they shared the waters at those times. The result we know, not only the fate of Spinosaurus, but in general life of all dinosaurs, 65 million years ago, the asteroid that came from the depths of the space destroyed 75% of all living species on Earth. But that's a good thing rather than a bad one. Otherwise, mammals might have not become the dominant class of life on Earth at all, and as a result, humans didn't evolve and you wouldn't be watching this video right now. And in order not to accidentally repeat the fate of the dinosaurs dying from some surprise from space, we should have prepared a plan B in the form of other potentially suitable planets for colonization. So we recommend our previous videos about how we can turn any planets into Earth-like worlds, as well as videos about the fastest spaceships, thanks to which we can easily fly to any celestial bodies.